Everyone, welcome to an episode of CRO Wisdom, where we bring leaders from the risk space to you and have a frank discussion on what they're seeing in the marketplace. Today, I'm extremely delighted to welcome Julie Gaiaschi, who's the CEO of TPRA, to our episode. Julie, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. So, Julie, let's start with first telling the audience a little bit about you. What brought you to this journey to be the CEO of TPRA? And please feel free to share about TPRA too.
Yeah, absolutely. So to make a very long story short, in college, I was actually tapped on the shoulder by FedEx, who's headquartered in Memphis, to be in their internal audit internship program. Knew nothing about internal audit, but quickly discovered I loved it because I could learn, I could meet people, and I could focus on IT because I really liked IT. So kind of fast forward, I was hired by a healthcare organization to be an IT auditor, and then did their whole entire IT stack, audited the whole stack over the course of 5 years. And then the security team said, wow, do you do any kind of vendor reviews? We would love to have you help us start our third-party security program. And that's how I got into third-party risk management. Because the program was very new and they didn't have anything in place before, I did a lot of benchmarking. So I went to conferences, met people, met my former partner there as well. And then I said, if we have these questions, others do too, let's start a roundtable. So in 2017, we started a roundtable. It grew from 15 companies to 128 in 4 meetings. So wow. Yes, I said, this is something. Let's create a vendor agnostic professional association for like-minded individuals, taking into consideration not only the practitioner side, but the service provider side. And so we launched TPRA in 2019, and we really do work to further the profession through knowledge sharing and networking. So we're a professional association for practitioners. Membership is either free or you can pay if you want discounts to our conferences and our certifications. And it's also for service providers because we want to lift the entire community. So we really try to help partner with our service providers and share what they're doing. And we also share what practitioners are seeing. And it's just better overall for both sides. So that's a little bit about me and how I got into that. Yeah.
So Julie, I can absolutely vouch for the TPRA as I've attended the events, learned a lot myself, made some incredible friends and relationships that continue to help me grow. And I know your next event is coming up in the big one, I should say, is coming up in April of next year in the Phoenix area.
Yeah, we're very excited about that. We're actually extending it to 4 days this year. Based on our last conference survey, everyone wanted more roundtables, more panels. They wanted more demos, which I was very surprised about. And so we are adding another day, and we're adding all of that into the event as well.
Yeah, I think it's a great way for risk leaders to see what innovations are out there in the marketplace. So I'm glad you guys are doing that.
Yep, absolutely.
So Julie, let's talk about, so your members, right? And so because of that, you're able to see a lot in terms of what's going on in the space. What trends are you seeing, particularly from your members, in terms of what's impacting them, whether it's their role of this risk leaders, their budgets, and also what is senior leadership asking of them?
Yeah, this is a really timely question. So we survey our members at the end of every year. And we just completed our survey about a few weeks ago. We have over 1,000 members now. And we asked them for their TPRM pain points. And I cannot tell you, I lost count of how many people have noted. But what we do is we look at them and we categorize them and we see how often they were mentioned. And that's actually what drives our meetings for next year. So the top ones for this year were TPRM budgeting, which is always on there. Because they're being asked to do more with less, because maybe they're a team of 1 to 3 and they don't have enough budget for tools or things like that, or resources, or the board's asking them to do thousands of reviews. Budgeting is always a concern. And so we do try to have meetings on budgeting to help them kind of gauge from a maturity perspective if they should be leveraging internal services, such as from their other departments, or other external services for automation. Another big one was executive and business owner buy-in. So it's still an issue. Educating executives is so key to getting a really strong third-party risk management program up and running. You have to have that tone from the top, or it's not going to be risk management across the enterprise, and that's what it has to be. From a business owner perspective, a lot of practitioners are having trouble educating them on their roles within third-party risk management. So they're the risk owners, but what does that really mean? They don't do the security assessments, they don't do the financial reviews, but they have to take the information gained from practitioners and make decisions on that. So really educating that business is another one. And then the last big one is just scaling their program. So how can they quickly scale to meet the demand of their business and not be a bottleneck? So really trying to mature their program as fast as they can while also meeting the demand of their business are the really three big ones I saw.
Yeah. Julie, you've highlighted some really important things that if risk leaders or providers are hearing this, they need to think about. It's not just about getting your risk management kind of day-to-day activities done. There's a role that's required, like you said, to internally educate, right?
Mm-hmm.
To inform, to show ROI, and then be a business enabler. How are you speeding up business as such?
Exactly.
So Julie, what about you? So in this risk environment, what are your three priorities, your top three priorities?
So, for me personally, I kind of go along with the more mature programs that are highly regulated. That's just because regulations usually do drive a lot of what's happening in third-party risk management. And so I would say keeping pace with regulatory change is a big one. There are so many regulations coming out around data security, privacy, environmental social governance, climate risk, labor laws, so much coming out that affects third-party programs. It's hard to keep up with it and know what to really focus on. So that is something that we're trying to help educate our practitioner side on, and just really learning and understanding where to start. And then the other one is assessing emerging risks. Yeah. So things like artificial intelligence, ESG is technically an emerging risk only because it hasn't been focused on in this capacity before. Investors have always focused on it, but not so much from a third-party risk management perspective. So that's another one. But really from an AI perspective, just how to assess AI, how to leverage AI, and what you should be focusing on from a model's perspective, so that you can make sure that whatever decisions that AI is helping you with, if they're not biased, or that can lead to sometimes some litigation there. Yeah. And then the last one, always nth parties. Nth party discovery, how to assess nth parties, how far to go down the rabbit hole. Yeah. That's always a big one for us too.
Yeah. Well, I think this is what you just shared is really important because you've got your pulse on what matters, like what really matters today. And I think it's important that as members, people are paying attention to not just what you guys are sharing, but some of these events, because the information that you're sharing is actually brings them up to speed on what's happening today, what matters.
Yeah, and the great thing is that we have, your organization's help and other organizations' help, which is so important for us to have, because you guys also see across the industries. And so bringing you in to have those conversations with practitioners is invaluable.
Yeah, absolutely. So Julie, let's talk about some risk practices that you're seeing in your members. So very clearly, assessments have been a very big part of risk management, right? And also there's a clear recognition that they're very laborious, take too long, and often they become stale very quickly. So you don't really have access to. Talk to us about what innovations are you seeing from your member companies that are addressing that issue?
Yeah, well, the biggest one is related to how service providers are leveraging AI. They're leveraging it in a way that makes assessments more proactive and less reactive. So there's a couple of ways they're doing that. They are leveraging AI to combine data, a lot of data from public scanners, private scanners, from public information that you can get from Google, things like that, and correlating it to the information they're getting from third parties, whether that be their questionnaire, their SOC, their pen test, things like that. So it's lessening the burden on resources and allowing organizations to discover risk that really matters to them in a timely manner. And that's the most important thing. It's allowing organizations to be more risk-based instead of just reacting to every risk that comes up. So that's something that I'm really seeing. The thing is, though, AI, it's newer. So it's still being trained. People are still trying to understand the security around it. We're still trying to determine how to leverage it for assessments. But I think that it's just going to only get better and better as we get better and better in determining how to model it.
Right. Julie, you said something, you said many things. One of the things I want to tease out that I think is a great reminder to the audience is this whole aspect of risk-based decision-making or risk-based risk management. So we are seeing practices in assessment example, if real-time or continuous monitoring sees no risk, why should you go and do an in-depth assessment again? Because you have a good understanding of what is the status of that company. Whereas in between assessments, often companies do them annually or so. If you're seeing risk rising, it's a perfect time to trigger something that's very, very targeted.
Mm-hmm.
What about integration that you're seeing between platforms, assessments, continuous monitoring, and any thinking around that you're seeing and how that may be making risk management more effective, more efficient?
Yeah, I think people want a tool that does it all. And, despite everyone's best efforts, there just isn't a tool that does it all. So I do appreciate that service provider, you guys included, are integrating with other organizations that do something specific very well.
Yeah.
So they either will look only at the financials, or they'll look only at geopolitical risk, or they'll look only at the perimeter of vendor networks and look for public-facing vulnerabilities, allowing people to access that kind of capability within one tool can be very helpful. With that said, a lot of people, some of the newer plans, they can't always afford the big tools that do it all. Really trying to create in their own organization a risk environment where everyone understands what risk is, why it's important, the return on investment they would receive if they have it in place is key. Because the more you mature, the more you can automate, the better you will be in the long run. So it's hard for a new program to purchase that tool that does it all. And I think forums like this, I think the TPRA is a great place to get information now that they can leverage before getting that big tool. So I want people to go away with this not thinking they have to go and get the biggest tool, but to know that we're all in it together and we are really willing to help each other.
Yeah, I think, Julia, you're absolutely right. I think of this as a kind of foundational journey where there are certain things you have to do first, and then you can start adding to your program based on budgets and, of course, impact and what the company's objectives are, for sure.
Right.
So, Julie, the TPRA does a great job at kind of bringing the focus on risk managers, and I think this was about 2 or 3 years ago where Bloomberg declared risk management as a hot job. Mm-hmm. What's your reaction to that? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's actually been a long time coming. And it's really just because of what's going on in our environment today. It's just happening. Everything's happening so quickly due to the pace of technology or globalization or economic uncertainty. So there's a lot going on. And if you don't focus on risk, then you could be exposing yourself to quite a bit of impact. And really, it was always there. It's just technology has made it come a little bit faster to you. So the threat landscape's always growing in complexity. And so really having an individual or individuals focus on what is important for your organization. And that means that individual is looking at what your organization does, what regulations surround it, what key areas of focus from a strategic standpoint you need to really understand before they understand their third-party landscape. And then so once they know that, then they'll know which third parties are more important to them, which third parties can impact them the most. It really starts internally. And that's why I always say risk has to be at the enterprise level. It has to be through the enterprise risk management department, because third-party risk is only one risk factor to your organization, but it can impact quite a bit. So I think that it's been a long time coming, especially with globalization, increasing independence or interdependencies on other countries, other economies, other organizations abroad. It's just the risk officer really needs to make sure your company can be operationally resilient.
Right. So that, to me, Julie, when I think about good risk management and resilience, it makes me think about, this is not just an operations function, that this is a function that can fundamentally impact your revenue, that can impact your top line, which is really a very different way to think about risk. What are your thoughts on, do you think risk management and risk leaders can help business executive sit at the kind of board level as such, and help companies recognize that good risk management can have revenue benefits?
I absolutely, I agree with that. And from a couple of different perspectives. From a saving of revenue perspective, it can really show, due to the controls that we're evaluating and the impact risk could have if controls weren't operating efficiently, that saves us money if there was a threat, or if there was a breach, or if there was a lawsuit or something like that. We are saving the company money, and the way that we can show that is by examining other organizations that have had breaches, that have had lawsuits against them for controls that weren't in place or not operating effectively within your industry. A lot of times it's hard to show the financial return on investment from TPRM programs. Sometimes the data just doesn't exist, or it's really hard to find, or you have to go to so many sources for it. But if we can show that to boards, I think it will be even more of an impact when we're discussing the importance of third-party risk management, because we do save money. The other side is we can also bring in revenue indirectly. So the fact that we are evaluating third parties from a security perspective, from a financial perspective, can give clients comfort that we're doing what we need to do, that we are taking their data seriously, that we are showing good governance, that we have strong ethics as an organization, which can lead to additional clients. Now, my concern is that everyone is getting kind of numb with breaches. My data's out there. It's, through a variety of third parties, it's out there. So that's one thing that we need to get better at, is really educating the larger community as well on how to secure their own information, because that's a part of our security as well. Right. So twofold there.
Yeah. So Julie, let's think about the future of risk management, future state of risk. You think ahead 2-5 years. Where do you see TPRA moving? Like, where is it heading?
That's kind of hard to nail down. And it really depends on the way that the threat landscape evolves, in my opinion, the way that AI is evolving, because it is very rapid. And I think that, AI is just going to make a lot of things better, but also a lot of things we'll have to work through. Yeah. So I really see third-party risk management becoming more proactive instead of reactive, which is great. I already see some providers being able to do nth-party discovery, where they will, you give them a couple of vendors and they will trickle it down the supply chain to say, this third party purchases products from this nth party, which gets raw material from this nth party located in this area, geopolitical risk, things like that. So there's already a benefit that we're seeing, and I think it's just going to expand. So we may get to a point where we don't have to manually send questionnaires anymore. I still think questionnaires will be a big part of third-party risk management, but it will be in a different way. Yeah. It will be in these are the controls we want to evaluate, and let's bring in real evidence, real-time evidence to determine the control environment that they have right now instead of at a point in time. So I think continuous monitoring will mean a little bit more. It will mean we really can continuously monitor third parties, and it won't just be a point in time. And we can correlate so much information better, quicker, to make more informed decisions.
Right. So I think if I can tease out some of the things you said to absolutely resonate with me, right? Risk management is moving to more real time. Risk management is showing the benefits of a proactive approach, and all of that is being aided by automation and AI. So I'm actually very, very excited where risk management is headed and the contribution that it plays in the success of enterprises.
Yep. And, I've also seen because of that, more communities come together, even different associations, different groups, to try and learn this together from a security perspective, from a framework perspective. And it's been really amazing to work with these communities to try to be better together.
Right. Yeah, Julie, I actually moderate a group that meets on a monthly basis. These are heads of TPRM. And it's a monthly discussion under Chatham House rules. So it's a very open discussion. And that group just keeps growing because they really want to help each other be better, both share and learn. So I totally see the risk community is actually a very mutually supportive community.
Agree.
So Julie, now to kind of advice for the market, or more importantly for individuals, could you share with us, what are some of the resources that you rely on to make yourself a more informed, a better risk leader?
Yeah, I would say it really is about community. I know we keep saying it, but you don't have to do this alone. And I think if you're a new program and you're just getting into this, it can be very scary. You don't know where to begin. And so really in putting yourself into communities like this or other organizations to learn from what others are doing, what others have done in the past, so you don't recreate some of the mistakes they did, can be very helpful. And also that executive support will be key. So if you don't have executive support, there isn't going to be much you can do. So making sure that they understand the value that you would bring to the organization if you had a good program or a strong program, and also the return on investment for them. So what you can save your organization is going to be key as well. And knowing your business. So knowing what services you provide, knowing your third-party inventory, not just from a contract perspective, but from look at accounts payable. If you have any software discovery tools, if you can find how people are uploading or downloading information from the web. Normally they're doing click-through agreements. Those are third parties. Really understanding your total environment, as well as any kind of other fourth or nth parties that may be dependent, there may be dependencies on between even your third parties, is going to be really key to just understanding your risk.
Yeah, Julie, I think that was great advice, not just kind of what resources you rely on, like the community you talked about, but also if you're a young risk professional that wants to grow in this profession, that these are some of the great points that one should think about. Before we end the session, Julie, is there anything else you want to share about your thoughts on risk or about the TPRA that members should know about or this audience should know about?
I think we covered quite a bit. So I really appreciate the time to do that. If you are interested in learning more about TPRA, you can go to www.tpra.org. And again, practitioner membership is free. We do partner quite often with organizations such as CRO Wisdom, and we really are here for you. So appreciate the time today.
Julie, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your wisdom with the CRO Wisdom audience. Thank you so much.